I'm Ian Worthington, owner of Gym Wolf PT, and I recently had my blood tested by Ted's Health. And now I'm today talking with Dr. Johnny Andrews, who's going to run through my results, tell me where I am, the different markers, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you for the intro, Ian. So nice to meet everyone. So I'm Dr. Johnny Andrews, or Jonathan Andrews fully, medical director here at Ted's Health. At Ted's Health, we are a tech-enabled digital men's health clinic. A lot of our focus is on supporting men with diagnosing hormonal issues, such as low testosterone, and where medically appropriate, prescribing TRT. But we also support men with the full aspects of lifestyle medicine. Where possible, kind of discussing the factors that could contribute to dysregulated hormones, in particular low testosterone, simple things that can be done across the pillars of lifestyle medicine. And of course, kind of signposting men for any other health concerns that we identify to appropriate providers or other actions that patients can obviously take either themselves with the NHS or privately. Thank you for joining us on this, Ian. So we're obviously going to do a bit of a live recorded consult, which is typical of our Ted's Health consultations. So I appreciate Ian is obviously very openly coming on to discuss his blood tests. I guess it's my first open question to you, Ian, which I think will be helpful for everyone dialing in. We have already pre-agreed and discussed this. But Ian, is it okay if you just share a little bit about yourself, medically, your age, any medical conditions, any medication that you're prescribed, any supplements, any allergies, any kind of family history medically that is worthwhile us knowing?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I'm Ian Worthington. I'm 49 years old. I'm 50 in September, which is a little bit of a scary milestone.
Don't look a day over 30, mate.
Cheers, I appreciate that. And I train regularly. Being in the fitness industry, I've trained for 32 years, pretty much consistently. I don't think I've ever missed more than 3 weeks in that period. I've been very lucky in the sense I've never had any major issues that took me out of training. I say lucky. I do feel I do a lot of the right things in terms of warming up properly, cooling down, keeping well hydrated. So there's an element of luck, but there's also an element of doing the right things. In terms of medical issues, I do suffer from ADHD, which I take medication for. I was only diagnosed when I was 47, but as my family tell me, they've known for years. But other than that, medically, I'm pretty good, I think. In terms of my nutrition, again, being a PT, I'm very mindful of that. I get a lot of protein. I do take supplements in the form of whey protein. I have taken creatine in the past. I don't currently take creatine. So the only major one is I'm always on a high protein diet, and I take supplements of whey protein. At this moment in time, don't take anything else other than that.
Amazing. Thank you for being so transparent on that. Just maybe a couple other quick follow-ups on that, which I think, again, is always useful. If we're going into consultation, we're going to be talking about blood tests. What would you say your nutrition is like? What's a typical kind of day like in terms of what you eat? Any kind of other short courses of antibiotics or medication that you've had recently prescribed? Any allergies to anything? Any intolerances? Anything you tend to avoid?
No allergies. In terms of my diet, I start the day with usually either eggs or a protein smoothie. I'm pretty consistent on that. I do have a decent variable of diet in terms of fruit and veg. Sometimes not as good as others, even though I'm a PT. Sometimes at weekend, I'm a bit more flexible in that. But in the main, I am very regimented on that side. So it tends to be a protein source breakfast. Lunch tends to be something protein based with pasta, rice, or salad or vegetables. Evening meals, I tend to have whatever the family's having, which might sound bad, but my wife's quite health conscious, and she, as she tells me, she tends to cook most of the time in the evening. So I'm open to whatever she has, but she tends to, in the main, make it fairly healthy. So I think I have a decent diet. Sometimes possibly overdo it on the protein. I always keep myself hydrated, and that I think that is something I am very constant with. I mean, I'm drinking, might shock people.
Mainly with water, electrolytes, or other types
I
of
don't
drinks?
actually purposely take electrolytes now, just because I feel I get what I need from my nutrition. But water wise, again, I'm not telling people to have this. I tend to have 6 to 8 liters a day. The reason being, that's what works for me. I train early morning, I train quite hard, and then I just constantly throughout the day. I never want to really feel thirsty. I'm always just sipping on water. So it is quite a high amount, but that's what I found to work to me. I'm not telling that's what everyone needs to do, but that's where I am with it.
Absolutely. You mentioned about high protein intakes, and I think this is very relevant for testosterone. And we'll talk a little bit about cholesterol. That's actually the first blood test we're going to get into in a second. Are you targeting any specific number of grams of protein? And what's your general approach and kind of advice to people who might be listening in on kind of adequate protein intake for kind of, supporting anabolism, supporting healthy muscle mass, lean mass, and not going into kind of catabolism and muscle loss and muscle wasting, as we do see a bit of.
Yeah, so after doing fitness training for 32 years, I don't track my macros and calories on a regular basis. When I tend to do it, it is if I've got a competition or a photo shoot or something like that, then I really will regiment it. In the main, my standard sort of maintenance will see me around 150 to 200 grams of protein a day. That can fluctuate slightly, but I'm always in that region. Obviously, with protein, the key is for having it throughout the day rather than all at once. Your body can't take 200 grams of protein in all at once, although I do know people who have tried these things, and obviously it's not recommended. So I try and split it, like I say, between the meals, always having a protein source in the breakfast, usually 30 to 40 grams. My lunch will probably be 40, 50 grams of protein. Evening meal can vary because my wife's cooking it, but usually there is a significant amount in that. And then making the others up through snacks, which can be things like lean meats that I might just snack on, eggs, or a protein shake again. So I am pretty balanced on that when I'm in maintenance mode. When, like I say, I'm working towards a specific goal, it changes significantly. I will monitor it. I will cut out things like alcohol, all the everything, and focus very much on hitting the numbers thing. But in everyday life, and I think most people relate to this, it's not something that a busy person who's running a business, got a family, wants to be doing every single day, weighing out food and ring. It doesn't need to be like that. If your goal's not to be, unless you've got a goal of, right, I'm doing a competition or I'm an elite athlete, for someone to be fit and healthy, energized, feel good, you don't have to be that regimented. You just have to have the key principles in place. And that's what I teach to a lot of the people I work with, because it's easy to look on social media and think that everyone wants to have an amazing six-pack and this, but you've got to balance your goals with what you want your lifestyle to be. And to get extremities, you have to be extreme in what you do to some degree. So yeah, to me, it's all about balance.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess I think this is relevant here. We will get to the bloods, but just curious if you're okay sharing maybe a few stats with regards to kind of fat mass percentage, kind of your weight, how that may fluctuate over time, and again whether protein intake, how does that change when you're training up for a competition or photo shoot versus, again, I know we've spoken in the past about you do a bit of an extended dry January, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm still on it.
Seasonal pattern fluctuate.
Yeah, so in maintenance mode, like I say, I'm coming up to 50 and there's no getting away from it. It does become more difficult to keep the fat levels at the right ring. At the moment in maintenance level, I am I tell people I'm 6 foot, but my wife's telling me I'm not. I'm 5'11", maybe 5'10" and a half, but I still seem to remember me being 6 foot. But and I'm usually around the 82 to 85 kg weight. I do train 6 days a week. Again, that is probably what a lot of people would class as extreme. It is my business. It is my main hobby. I'm quite boring in that sense. And plus, it gets me out of the house. I've got 3 kids, so it's sort of a big part of my life. So
Yeah.
I do train 6 days a week. So that is what I class as my maintenance. I would suggest my body fat at that stage is anything from about 10 to 14%, which some people might think that's quite high for a PT. I'm comfortable with that. I feel energized. I feel good. I don't have to be too extreme in what I'm doing in terms of eating and drinking. When I am doing a competition or a photo shoot, that drastically changes. You know, I mean, I can get down. I have in the past as low as near enough 70 kg with body fat around 5%, but that really is not so much changing the protein. Like I say, I'm always on a high protein diet, but that is really bringing the calories down. So, you know, when I'm doing that, it fluctuates between, usually I'll do a 12 to 16 week cycle. And the last 2 weeks of that is very extreme, where I'm on very low calories, high protein, lots of water. And then at the last minute, I'm giving myself a lot of salt and things like that to really bring out the definition and stuff. But yeah, the protein levels, to me, the way I find it, I'm very consistent really in that sense. It's the calories that I adjust when I've got a specific goal. So yeah.
Okay. Well, I think enough with building the anticipation. I think we'll go into talking about your bloods, and then obviously I think you've given a lot of useful information which we'll reference. I'll probably ask a few questions, and I'm sure you'd have questions for me on how these biomarkers may vary depending on the person who's doing the blood test.
Yeah.
So as everyone should hopefully be able to see on screen now, we are looking at Ian's view, so the patient dashboard. This is Ted's Health platform. This is from the baseline booking blood test. We call it a BBT. And this is typically what most customers or patients would start. So they'd go to our website or go through a partner, purchase a blood test kit, and this would be 22 biomarkers that is included in the package, which gives us a relatively comprehensive view of a men's health status. It's obviously not every single blood test under the sun. And I always caution people when they're looking at numbers of biomarkers, actually, it's important that you find the ones that are relevant to you. And it's most important that you have that ability to at least have someone a consult with somebody. That could be with your NHS GP, although it's hard to sometimes get appointments, especially if you're coming in with your own set of bloods. And, 10 minutes in a GP consult is probably not enough to get to the level of detail, as you've already seen. We've been chatting now a number of minutes, and we've still even yet to get into the bloods.
I think that's a very important point, Johnny, because obviously, like I say, I've been in the fitness industry for many years, and when I got the report, I've obviously had a look through it. Some of the things I think, yeah, got that, understand that, but there's measurements in there that, to me, they're out of my range of knowledge. So I think the point that you get a doctor's consultation is a massive thing, because too often people just get reports sent to them. What do you do with a report? You might understand some bits. Yes, you could look online and that, but that also brings confusion. So having someone to answer the questions, to go through things with you, to me is a massive benefit.
And I think it's one of the things we're most proud of at Ted's Health. There are doctors and clinicians and nurses at the end of a call or a video consult, relatively accessible, at least in the working week in hours. Whereas you can struggle, sadly, even in the NHS, to sometimes get appointments for weeks and to speak to someone. A lot of people, let's call this elephant out in the room, are turning to AI, large language models, so ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, and others, to put in their data. And I would always caution people on putting data into which is potentially being used to train. That's just personal data and health data. And while you can get a lot of information in a really understandable way, and you can feel that these tools understand you really well, remember they're not a human, they're not regulated, they are prone to bias and hallucinations, meaning they can get things wrong. And I have personally seen some instances where patients have got very freaked out from looking at the result, putting it into Copilot and getting it something which is quite scary before being able to speak with doctors, including myself and others as well. And then finding out that actually everything was, thankfully in that case, okay. So that is the biggest discussion point. That's actually why I'm really excited doing this this video recording with Ian, because we are keen to show this kind of discussion point and the ability, hopefully the advantage of talking with real human clinicians.